Quadratic formula, missing terms. In this video we're going to talk about what to do in a particular case dealing with a quadratic formula. So if we see that a term is missing, we will use 0 in the quadratic formula. For example, right here we have 3x squared minus 51 equals 0. So we're missing a term with a plain x in it. So for this problem, we're going to be able to identify that this is an a. This is our a is equal to 3, and that this number right here is going to be our c. So c is equal to negative 51. But since we don't have an x term, we're a little bit, not sure at first what we should put in for b. And so this video is all about how, if you're missing a term, you're going to use a 0 right there in the quadratic formula. Okay, so let's remember that the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so now we're ready to plug in all of our numbers. So, looks to me like in this case we'll have x equals a negative 0 plus or minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 51 all over 2 times 3. Okay, so then we're going to have to do some simplification in here, and I know that this 0 isn't really going to affect anything. That'll make our math a little bit easier, but we'll still have to do negative 4 times 3 will give us negative 12, and then negative 12 times 51. That I don't know right off the top of my head, so I'm going to go ahead and just write it over here. Shouldn't take too long. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 5 is 10, and then 1 times 51 will just give me a plain 51. 2 times 0 is 2, 0 plus 1 is 1, and 1 plus 5 is 6, so now I've got 612. Okay, and then the negative times the negative will make it positive. So now I've got my 0 out in front, plus or minus the square root of 612 all over 2 times 3 will give me 6. So now I've got the 612 here, and we're going to need to simplify this radical. So remember, like we were learning before, when we simplify radicals, we need to break down the number inside using prime factorization. So I already know that that number right there is 12 times 51, since that's what I multiplied together to get it. And I know that 12 is 4 times 3, 51 might take a little bit of work, but you'll figure out that that's divisible by 3. And that'll be 3 times 17. And then 4 will be 2 times 2. So I can go ahead and write this 612 as 2 squared times 3 squared times 17. So now I've got the 0 plus or minus that over 6. So in this case, I know that I've got a square root which just has an implied index of 2 right here. So then I could write this as the square root of 2 squared, times the square root of 3 squared times the square root of 17. And here my radical is going to cancel out my exponent, and so I'll just be left with 2 times 3 out in front, and then the square root of 17. This is all over 6. Okay, so the 0 is not going to change anything, but we still need to have our plus or minus, because this could be positive or negative. And I can rewrite this. This 2 times 3 will give me 6 square root of 17 over 6. Still positive or negative. And so we've got a 6 on top and a 6 on bottom, and this is all one big fractional multiplied together. So we can actually divide out the 6's, and we'll be left with plus or minus the square root of 17. Okay, so in this case, that will be our final answer. X equals plus or minus the square root of 17. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another example. This example says 5x squared is equal to 2x. So remember, like we were learning in the last video, we got to get everything over onto the same side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. I've got 5x squared minus 2x equals 0. So then the next thing that I want to do is identify, this is my a. This number in front of the x is going to be my b. And then I don't have just a plain number term. That's the term that I'm missing. So for c, I'm going to plug in 0. So now, let's go ahead and put that all in the quadratic formula. Okay, so I can't see my quadratic formula again, so I'm going to rewrite it over here. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. When I rewrite it, that'll make it easier for me to see where I need to be plugging my numbers in. Okay, so now let's go ahead and we'll say x equals, the negative of b would be the opposite of this negative 2 here, so that'll become positive, plus or minus the square root. B squared is going to be a negative 2 squared minus 4 times a is 5 and c, that's 0, all over 2 times a is 5. Okay, so now we're going to end up with a 2 plus or minus the square root. So this negative 2 squared will just give us a positive 4. And then we've got 4 times 5 will give us 20. And then 20 times 0 will just leave us with a 0. So we've got plus 0 underneath there. And then 2 times 5 will give us 10. Okay, so now we want to go ahead and say that this is 2 plus or minus square root of 4, do that addition underneath the radical, and then we want to try and simplify this radical, and doing the prime factorization of 4 is pretty simple. It's just 2 squared. So now I've got exponents and radicals that match, exponents and indexes that match. So this is going to be 2 plus or minus 2 over 10. So in this case, we've been able to completely eliminate the radical, so we're going to have two different possible x's. We'll have x equals 2 plus 2 divided by 10, and we'll have x equals 2 minus 2 divided by 10. Okay, so this will be 4/10. When we reduce that fraction, we get 2/5. And this will be 0 divided by 10. 0 divided by anything is still just 0. So that is how you deal with missing terms in the quadratic formula.